When people notice the obvious inequality in our country and wonder why black people haven't caught up yet despite slavery ending over 150 years ago, they're wrong. It ended 80 years ago. When was the last slave freed in America? It wasn't after the Civil War, it was during World War II, in September 1942. Our current president, Joe Biden, was born 2 months later. Until he graduated from college, black people had to drink out of a separate water fountain. Segregation didn't end until the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Jim Crow ended with the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which allowed black people to vote again. But just a few years after that, Nixon came along with his war on drugs, which disenfranchised and imprisoned even more black people. On purpose. My police militarization video goes into more detail, but if you don't believe me.
The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and the blacks with heroin, then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did.
Why haven't we done reparations? We clearly owe them. And by we, I don't mean white people. I mean the government of the United States. Since the colonial days, the laws of this country have been used to force black people into a permanent underclass. For the first 100 years after independence, the Constitution not only allowed, but protected slavery. And immediately after it was abolished, the criminal justice system was used as leverage to extract as much labor and wealth out of black people as possible, either directly by sentencing them to hard labor in the coal mines, or indirectly by issuing an exorbitant fine that was then paid for by a plantation owner who held that debt over them while simultaneously increasing it so it took years to pay off. If they tried to leave, they'd be arrested for breaking a labor contract and given even more hard labor. This blatantly unjust system created generations of people who rightfully fear going out alone and have learned not to expect help from the authorities. They don't